Hey, everybody. It's the Pick Six podcast here on a Friday. And we waited till Friday for good reason because there was a lot of Nebraska news that had to get out of the way this week. Hello, I'm Sam McKewon along with Tom Shatel wearing his Elkhorn South hat. The Elkhorn South, the Storm. They're the Storm, right?
Yes.
They're going for a state title night against West Side. Should be a defensive battle. Should be a good game, honestly. A lot of good players in that game, and then joined by Evan Bland, who is here in Lincoln. It's November 20th. COVID is tough. We hope everybody out there is doing okay. And if you're not, well, we're praying for you anyway. It's a tough time. There's a lot going on. It's a high school championship Friday. A lot of Husker recruits playing in some of those games, both walk-ons and scholarship dudes. And then the Huskers play on Saturday against Illinois. The Nebraska basketball team starts November 25th. We now know their full schedule. They know their full schedule. And then the Husker football plays next Friday. And so amid a very difficult medical time, I think all three of us are going to be really busy. And we'll be doing a lot of different stuff. So I guess I have to remind everybody of our sponsor, but then I'm going to just kind of open it up and just say, hey, what's jumping out at you at this moment, because there's quite a bit to go through. I want to remind everybody that our sponsor is the Schwalbach Agency. Team Schwalbach is a family-owned all-state insurance agency with 4 licensed insurance pros, saving thousands of Nebraska Husker fans money. They sell homeowner, auto, life, and flood insurance across Nebraska, and they also insure all the big boy toys: motorcycles, boats, RVs, off-road vehicles. If you've had your roof replaced in the last 5 years, give Daryl Schwalbach, Kyle Schwalbach, Nancy Mostek, or Kyle Murdoch a call at 402-590-5200. They can help you save a bundle. No free, no obligation insurance reviews and quotes are going to make sure all of their fellow Nebraska fans are properly protected. You can contact them at 402-590-5200 or www.allstate.com, nebraskaallstate.com, www.nebraskaallstate.com. Thank you to Team Schwalbach and the Schwalbach Agency. Guys, here we go. It's a busy week. Yeah, there's Husker football, there's high school football, there's Husker hoops. There's a bunch of different stuff going on. What jumps out to you, Tom?
COVID. I just get these how many games can we get in?
Yeah.
The basketball numbers are starting to jump out of the building, and I'm just happy we got the high school, knock on wood, the high school championships in. So. And we're down to the last day here. Hopefully, they can get the games played. But I guess it's a minor miracle that season happened, and I'm just so thankful for it, because it really kept me going all fall. Having those games to watch in person or on TV, I love the TV games, and having our stories and our all that stuff. It makes it more of a normal fall when you can have high school football on Friday nights. So I'm very proud of our state and all the young men and all the people involved. Got it done and had all the tests and all the hassles, and So and then tomorrow's another day of college football. The Big Ten just kind of plodding along, and haven't had too many interruptions yet, but I keep waiting for Nebraska's next interruption, to be honest, Sam. After the Wisconsin thing, I thought this would be every other week, but so far so good. And I know the Illini had their issues. They seem to be okay. I guess they're on their way today. So, it's going to be one of those winners, and I hope we have a college football playoff. And I just noticed the Heisman is in January now. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I
wonder about our Outland Trophy. Maybe I'm guessing that'll all be done virtually and without any people. So I don't know that for a fact. So and our basketball appears to be kind of a free-for-all. We'll just see how that goes every week. So as someone that covers both sports, as we all do, like you said, buckle up.
Yeah, the return to play protocols in the Big Ten, I don't know if they're going to revisit the 21-day deal, but they probably have to if they're going to do this with basketball because it's very, very hard to lose 3 or 4 basketball players for 21 days and during the league season and expect to, function. So I don't know if they're going to revisit that. They may want to revisit that. I think 14 days is more prudent, or at least been proven to be. But, yeah, I think in football – there have been maybe a couple of circumstances where teams really couldn't have played, and they were down so many players that they, didn't want to. I know Kansas State is down to virtually the limit this week, but they might play anyway. I don't think Maryland, for example, is down to that limit, and they're not playing. But the Big Ten gave, league teams the discretion not to play. I think Illinois chose to play. And I think that's one of the reasons why Scott Frost has had so much admiration this week for Lovie Smith is because I believe that Illinois chose to play even when it didn't have to. And they chose not to cancel their game. Now they're on the other side of it. So I actually think Illinois is the total team strength of Illinois is probably as good as it's been since the beginning of the season. The team that Nebraska is going to face on Saturday might actually be a little bit better team than the team that lost 41-14 to Minnesota, which is when I think it was hitting Illinois probably the hardest. But yeah, it's that does jump out to me. What about you, Evan? What are the next week really jumps out to you and really stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the high school football certainly deserves its time in the spotlight. I thought, Tom, your column was really
Great.
Excellent on former Huskers and kind of the ties that play into that thing tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun. Elkhorn South, West Side, and NA, and Aurora Elkhorn. I think a lot of these games are going to be good, but those are two that fascinate me. Obviously, it stinks for communities and the players that they don't get to play these in Memorial Stadium. But there is kind of, I guess, a novelty to playing them at home sites, and to kind of see this thing play out at different locations around the state will be kind of its own unique phenomenon tonight. And, I think after these games tonight, then we really kind of see that home stretch in recruiting here for the 2021 class, where maybe a handful of guys who have walk-on decisions to make, maybe once their seasons are done or the high school season is over completely, those decisions start to be made. We get kind of the sprint to early signing day on December 16th. So those are some things. And then, as weird as it is, it's Iowa week next week. And so it's the Black Friday game. We're conditioned to feel like that's the end of this regular season or the end of the season in recent years. And now it's just past the halfway point. So that's going to be kind of a weird thing to work through, and how Thanksgiving is going to be different with COVID for people this year. So it'll be really an odd week. It's such a landmark week usually in the year, and it's going to be off. It's going to feel off kilter in that way. But I think, like Tom said, just the fact that we've gotten to this point with high school football, that Nebraska is getting ready to play, its 4th game of the season in 5 tries. In hindsight, that seems like it's been pretty good, maybe better than we thought it might be. So just the fact that we're plodding along, that in some small way sports is kind of serving its purpose of providing a little bit of a relief in this heavy environment of COVID, it is a pretty good thing.
Yeah, the playoffs hit at the right time in Nebraska high school football, because I think if you'd been playing the regular season, you would have seen a ton of cancellations based on the rise of cases. But the fact is, you were winnowing down the teams each week as the cases got worse and worse. And so you had fewer and fewer teams with contact. I'm really looking forward to, at least tonight, I'm really looking forward to the state title game, because I think if Westside can finish it off, I think that's one of the more special teams that I've seen in recent years. I'm not sure it's as good as the Millard North team that beat ranked teams every single game they played about 15 years ago, or the Omaha North team from 2, 3, 4 years ago. But it's right up there, and it certainly has a lot of collegiate talent. Not just Kobe Bretz, who's going to Nebraska, but their quarterback is a hell of a player. They obviously have Avante Dickerson. They have Cade Haberman. They have some players. I mean, Westside is set up to be a powerhouse for the next 5 years. Westside and Bellevue West, and one or two of the Millard schools, and of course Elkhorn South. I mean, those are going to be your schools. Maybe Millard North gets its way back in there, but those are going to be the schools that I think we're going to be following a lot of in years to come in the Metro. And they're just stockpiling talent. Elkhorn South probably has the best group of linemen. They're not necessarily D1 linemen. It's hard to be a D1 lineman, but they've got linemen. It's a lot of kids who used to go to Millard North or Millard South are now going to Elkhorn South. So it's an impressive group, and I'll be looking forward to that. In terms of Nebraska, the weeks kind of go on in Husker football, and I think we all kind of know what this season is now, and it's a season of rebuilding, and it's a season of sort of integrating some of these young players into the team. And now that we kind of know the identity of the team, I think most fans can square with the possibility that they're going to see some ups and downs on that offensive side of the ball. The defense seems to have a fairly decent sense of itself. I like what Eric Chenander's doing at a lot of different levels of the defense. We'll see if this 2-4-5 continues to work, or whatever the hell you want to call it, 2-5-4, 2-4-5, if it continues to work. But, I think the identity is pretty clear on defense, and then on offense, it's just going to be, the trials and travails of young players. And this is a trial run for Luke McCaffrey too. I think Adrian Martinez had his 2.5 years to do it or not do it, and this is Luke McCaffrey's season. That'd be my read of it, and he's going to get every opportunity to show what he can do and what his potential ceiling is. And I know the coaches are going to be watching closely, because Nebraska football can't afford to go through the next 3 or 4 seasons without having one of the very best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Not a good quarterback that we can write good things, fun things about because we like him, but a guy that really, really is good. And that's the thing that they've got to figure out about McCaffrey, just like they have to figure out about Martinez, so on and so forth. They really have to figure out if this guy is the guy for the next several years, or if he's a guy that, is good but not great.
Well, that's exactly why Jim Harbaugh he's got a winning record, but he's in hot water.
Right.
You had told me when I remember when he left the 49ers and their ownership chased him out, and he landed on the market, and of course he was going to Michigan. You had told me he'd never get a quarterback. I said, you're out of your mind. He's going to have quarterbacks lining up down the street, all the way down to Ann Street, downtown Ann Arbor. And he hasn't. And that's been why he's failed. And if you want to call his record failing, but overall record, but that's for Frost. You can't go down the same path. He's got to get the quarterbacks. And he's going to get receivers as well. But, yeah, you're right. The quarterback has to work. And this season has really played out the way I kind of hoped. I didn't think they needed a big pressure season. I didn't think that they were ready for that. I thought if they could have a year where there was really no pressure and they could develop and they could play some games. Certainly, we all wanted games every week, and they're getting games every week, by the way. But really, you don't feel like whatever happens this year in the Big Ten it's going to be kind of weird. And we may end up with Ohio State, Wisconsin in the greatest game ever, but it's still kind of a weird year. And I just feel like it's really kind of, I think it's a good thing. The people will probably disagree with me on that because they want to win all the time. And I agree with that, but you got to learn how to win first. And this thing, it needs a spark. It needs some kind of a chemistry, a jump start. It needs a discovery. It needs to, we know how to play good football now. Here's how you do it. Here you have a defense that plays well. You have a quarterback who makes plays, special teams that do something, and that's a little spark to a fire. That's kind of what we had last week. And it's a formula that might get them going forward. That's what I kind of want to see tomorrow. Can we get that formula again? And can we get it again and again? And you have different guys stepping up every week. And is it a thing that you can kind of rely on? That's what we got to see right now. As for Luke, what's his learning curve? And is he going to have help? And will there be mistakes? Yes, but is he going to bounce back? And you always felt like Adrian, at least in the last year or so, the mistakes kind of compounded themselves. They just kind of added up. He never really shook them off, and it just seemed to spiral a little bit. And they have to realize there are going to be mistakes, but maybe this kid can shake them off and move on. And so that's kind of what I look at. I've really been impressed by the defense, and I'm not a scheme guy. Everybody knows that. I can't tell a 4-3 from a 2-10-2 or whatever. But these guys hit. They're tackling well. They're moving around a lot faster. They're very sure of themselves, and that's what a defense is. It's confidence on fire, confidence on wheels, and they let you know they're there. And I've been very impressed that Chandler's been everybody's favorite weapon boy, and he will be forever. Let's face it, coordinator Sean McBride was the weapon boy to the end, and then when he crossed over and into retirement, he became a legend. Yep. He was never the legend when he was doing it. So right. He'll be the weapon boy forever, but he has done something right, and his defense is better.
I agree. I agree with the hit part. Yeah, they hit. They do. They have some safeties who like to hit, and a lot of times you're hitting. That quotient comes not from the D line, but from your back end guys. Are they afraid, or do they stick their nose in there? And Nebraska's safeties do. And not only do Nebraska's safeties, but Cam Taylor-Britt and Quentin Newsome, they hit too. They like hitting. They're very aggressive players. And I think that sets a tone, because your defensive linemen are always going to hit. They're defensive linemen, but they're slow, so they don't always get their hits in, But your fast guys hit, and they do. And I do think they have a better culture on that side of the ball this year than they did last, which surprises me a little. But I think that's positive, and that's good. And the statistics aren't beautiful, but you do see I think when you've covered the sport as long as you have, Tom, you can tell visually when it's looking right, and it does look right. Offense does not.
I wonder if there's a JoJo Doman factor there. He likes to run into stuff, and that's what defensive football is. Guys who it's little boys who grow into big boys who like to run into stuff, and they like collisions. And JoJo loves a good collision. I wonder if, as now he's the older guy, if he's rubbed off on some of those guys. Who knows?
It's possible.
I think
you wrote about JoJo, Evan.
Yeah. I mean, he's the busiest black shirt. He never comes off the field for good reason. But I wanted to.
That's what he is.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something you said too, Tom, about development. I think that's, to me, the theme of this season. Frost and the staff, they've stacked top 25 classes. We know kind of what their MO is as recruiters, kind of what they can do in that realm. But to me, this is the perfect season to see, okay, how much better do these guys get? I mean, they've had plenty of time with strength and conditioning program now. Most of them know the scheme. They've been in the system for a number of years. How much better can these guys get? I mean, Adrian Martinez, it's not a great precedent when the guy, his best season was his first season, and he kind of regressed for a number of reasons that we've laid out. But can the O-line be better in game 8 than it is in game 1? Can there be stability in some of the other kind of facets of the team? Will these players get better? And I think that's, to me, a question about this staff going forward. Not that it hasn't been decided one way or the other, but how good of talent developers are they? We've seen that they can bring in talent, but how can that start translating in the games? And to me, this is the perfect season to see that. for all the reasons that we laid out. And so, the wins are important. You need to get in the habit of doing that. But I just want to see some guys at different positions where you can say, man, this guy got a lot better this year. And I don't know that we've had a lot of Huskers in recent seasons where we can say that. And to me, that's the sign that this thing's taken that next step.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the big question is going to be that quarterback spot, and whether over the course of the rest of the season, I just, McCaffrey may get hurt. Obviously, that does happen in this Scott Frost offense, or at least has with Adrian Martinez the last 2 years. So he could get hurt, and Martinez could come back and have to play 2 or 3 games. Somebody could get COVID. You just never know. But other than that, I think Luke's going to get a lot of play here. I mean, I think they're going to give him a lot of latitude to kind of just play through mistakes and play through bad stretches and whatever, because I think they need to get a really good, long, loving look at whether this guy, with his energy, running a little bit faster tempo, his metronome moving a little quicker, is the guy for the future. And this is a great time to do that, because as everybody knows, I mean, let's say the vaccine does what we want it to do. We hope that, right? By next April or May or June, we're going to be in a spot where we're going to be talking about college football from a very different perspective. Like, we're not going to be talking about this, will they or won't they? Oh my gosh, it'll be a different story altogether. Most of the athletes on the teams will have already had it, for one thing. And for another thing, most of the people who would be most vulnerable of dying from it will have had the vaccine. Hopefully by next May. So you're going to get a 2021 season, and it is a bear. Like, it's the hardest schedule they've ever had. Maybe. It really is. I mean, it's friggin' Oklahoma, who's going to be good. I mean, they're good now. They're getting good, and they're going to be great next year. You're going to get Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan. Help me out. I can't even remember who's on that 21-1 schedule, but it's brutally hard.
Well, thankfully, Cincinnati's not.
Yeah, they're not. They're not.
What do you imagine we had to play them this year?
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough.
And not playing Wisconsin may have been a blessing as well.
They play Buffalo, though, and Buffalo might go undefeated this year in the MAC. So they play at Illinois. They're going to play this. They want to play this game in Ireland.
Yeah, we'll see.
Illinois and Ireland, and then Buffalo, who's good. They're good.
Right.
At Oklahoma. At Michigan State. We'll see how good they are. Ohio State, Northwestern, at Purdue, Michigan, Iowa, and a crap game against Southeast Louisiana.
All those Big Ten schools are good because Nebraska hadn't beaten them. But
right. So the schedule. My point being that the schedule next year is really, really tough.
And we're going to start.
And you're basically
counting. We're going to start counting games, aren't we? We're going to. Okay, here we go.
You wrote about this. You wrote about it.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this truncated season. You're like, this season needs to be. Basically an extended spring football for next season, and they might get a bowl out of it. I think they will. Actually, I predict Nebraska will go 3-4. Or they'll either go 4-4, 3-5. They'll get a bowl. That's fine. But they really need to figure out whether they've got the guy at that position, because if they don't, then if he isn't the guy, then they need to really figure out how they're going to build a winning offense going forward. And maybe that's, hey, we're going to run the hell out of it, and we're going to get the best line out there, and we're going to run it with our backs, or we're going to do a better job of scheming up big passes. But I'm sure what they would love is if their quarterback was just really damn good, and it let them be able to do things that they wouldn't be able to do if he wasn't. And so for me, what I'm going to watch a lot the last 4 games of the year, 5 games, whatever, is McCaffrey. Like, how is he going to handle situations? How's he handling 3rd and 7? How is he doing when he's rolling out? Is he making the right reads? Does he have touch? Because that's something that's iffy right now. He's had a couple passes batted down, one that went off somebody's helmet and went up in the air and was picked off. You got to be able to throw that little short crosser when you're 6'1" or 6'2", and you can't throw it into someone's, big paw. You have to throw it over their paw.
Yeah.
So there's these little things about his game that I'm really excited to watch, because I do think he's got some ability, and I was higher on him than most people, despite his not playing a lot of quarterback. And I do think there's a chance that he could be really special, but they got to find that out. And I think sometimes we in the media have a tendency to anoint people quickly, and we can't do that. We did that to Martinez, and it wasn't fair, and he kind of regressed, and I think he struggled under that spotlight and pressure, and I think McCaffrey is a little bit different wired, but you can't anoint the guy before he's actually done it on the field. And Illinois is the kind of defense that, hey, they're not a great defense, but they are an opportunistic one, and they're the kind of defense that if you're not playing well, they'll take the ball away from you 3 or 4 times, and they'll make your life miserable that way.
Well, I think I'm hopeful about this offense. It is a little bit of a grand experiment to bring Oregon offense in here and say you're gonna dress it up with a little physicality.
Right.
It's a difficult thing because physicality has to be a habit. Well, at least on offense, where you want your offensive lineman to, it's if you're not doing it all the time, it's hard to do. So, and the people in this league who do it, I mean, they're all professionals at this thing. So, but last year, Sam, and you certainly can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I was talking with Tom Oates, the columnist at Wisconsin, after that Wisconsin game last year. You remember it was close for a while. Wisconsin returned to kick, and then the running back got going, Jonathan Taylor. But after that game, Tom Oates said, Nebraska's offense really gave Wisconsin coaches fits. They were very frustrated after that game with Nebraska's offense. And it wasn't a great offense. It wasn't really the top of the line what they were. But they did, Martinez did have some good plays in that game. But they found a lot of open receivers. They just felt like they were on their heels. And I think Iowa the last couple of years, Nebraska didn't have a great offense by and if they'd had any kind of offense at the end of last season, they'd have driven down the field and gotten a field goal, I believe. But of course, could they have made the field goal? I don't know. But the fact is, they were great, and they found a way. And certainly McCaffrey was in on that. They came back the last 2 years on Iowa, and with not the offense that they want. So I think there's a blueprint that this offense might do okay in its division. And yes, Minnesota, but let's face it, the Minnesota game last year, you had no Vedro out there. They had a team that was not very physical and probably didn't want to even show up that night. So the year before, they really hammered Minnesota in Martinez's freshman year. So I think this offense, if they get it together, and we've got to see a running game. Where's the running game? Where are the running backs at? Do you really need to play Wandale at running back? Because he had to be a full-time running back.
I think they're going to play him again.
Nobody else right now. I mean, that needs to be fixed. So
I agree.
Have to be their full-time running back. But I get it. It's kind of where they are, but they better fix that because that's kind of something you have to have.
What did Ryan Held say last night, Evan, about – because he talked for an hour, and he's a good talker, so he doesn't just talk for an hour and say nothing.
He does. His comments on Wandale were interesting to me because he essentially said, well, we need to get the ball in his hands, but I didn't get the sense – and this is just my interpretation, but I didn't get the sense that he was necessarily crazy about that decision. I think he understood that they needed to, he was a playmaker and they wanted him to have a chance to make plays. But, it's hard to say because, like he said, Ramir Johnson has been inconsistent in practice. Sevian Morrison's been nicked up. Ronald Tompkins is dealing with some, physical stuff too. Mills was nicked up. So, like, a lot of the guys are hurt. But man, like we've said before, like if you've got, what do they have, 5 scholarship running backs, and you're still having to hand off to a guy you want to be a receiver, I mean, what does that say about your position?
Well, he is still the best high school running back on the team if you're talking about his prep career. So
Morrison was pretty good.
Yeah, Wandale was better, but Morrison's hurt. He's banged up. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand the whole, like, we don't want to play him there, but Wando Robinson was a running back in high school, so it's not like they're taking Xavier Betts and putting him at running back.
But he hasn't been working out there. He's been working as a receiver, and they've said, well, crap, we better put you back here now because we need you.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, definitely they want to be able to lean on Mills. I mean, it's a lot to ask of Marvin Scott to do all those things right away in his third career game. I thought he played pretty well the few snaps he was in. I mean, my thoughts on number 14 are known. I mean, Evan, you and I have talked about him many times. So if he were good enough, he'd play. And he'd play in front of whomever. But, if he isn't playing, he's not playing. And then, Tompkins, they already knew that they were going to have to work through his injuries and, his nicks and things. And then there's Morrison, who they have high hopes for. I know that their expectations for Sevion Morrison are really high, and he needs to play. But in order to play, he's got to be healthy. And so you're left at this point with a healthy Marvin Scott and maybe Mills, maybe not, and Robinson. And again, if they thought they would get better, whatever, I just don't know that you're gaining anything by putting a guy on the field that is not as good as Wandale Robinson in either role. And that's the part where that's Ramir Johnson. That's where I just don't know that that's a guy that they're going to be able to rely on. So, and
it's not just Wandale; it's the fact that the quarterbacks are accounting for 2/3 of Nebraska's rushing production. Yeah. Right? Like,
it's way too
running your quarterback 2 out of 3 running plays. You're putting your receiver as the backup running back. That's not a great statement for that room.
You want to throw it a little. You want to back the guys off. It's hard. They can't throw it over people right now. I'll say this much. Wandale Robinson is 5'9". Maybe he's listed at 5'10". He's 5'10". I'm not sure they can hit him real well in the pass game outside of those little screens. Unless you're moving your pocket and you're moving McCaffrey out and you're trying to find Wandale, on scramble drills or on adjustment routes and things like that. McCaffrey's not the tallest guy you'll ever see, and Wandale's not the tallest guy either. And so it's hard. I think it's probably going to be hard to hit him on some of those routes unless you're going way over the top and you're going boo. And I don't know if they have the protection, the pass rush, the O-line protection, or the quarterback who can get that read, because teams are bracketing Wandale. I think they're trying to take him away purposefully because they're not worried about the other guys. So you've got to start by hitting other guys, and then you've got to find a way to get Robinson loose. And then you've got to have the quarterback. And I think the world of Frost's creativity and mind and offense, he certainly has a lot of, he's a brilliant guy. But the Oregon offense had the extraordinary benefit of Marcus Mariota and Justin Herbert in back-to-back stints. Separated by 1 year with Vernon Adams, who was a superstar at the FCS level and now plays in the CFL. They went Mariota, Adams for 1 year, Herbert. I mean, that's a great benefit, and Frost recruited them both. I mean, you've got to find a Mariota or Herbert. You got to find those guys because they help you do all the things you want to do.
Right. That's it.
Let me ask you guys. Like you were talking earlier about McCaffrey, and they need to see if he's the guy. What if he's not? Like, what's your takeaway if after 3 years Martinez, is ineffective? If McCaffrey's not the guy, they were both 4-star recruits. They were both sought after kids. Like, what's your takeaway if after 3 years Nebraska still doesn't have that guy at quarterback?
Well,
go ahead.
No, when you're building a program, there's going to be mistakes early in recruiting, and you have to have a lot more hits than misses, and you have to have a little luck. Yeah, you have to have you can't, but especially at quarterback, you can't blow it. You can't have guys who aren't, there have to be answers, and they have to be good answers, and or you see what happened to Harbaugh. I mean, that's what he's doing right now. He has now, Andrew Luck in Stanford. We saw what that did. And he coached the heck out of Kaepernick at the 49ers. I mean, If you give him a guy, he can do it.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Frost. You give him a guy, watch out. But now do we know this year if McCaffrey's the guy or not? No, I don't. I think it's too. I don't think you can necessarily go off a handful of games, which is what this year is going to be. It's going to be a handful of games. But I think that's sort of the beauty of it, though. You can see what he's got. You don't have to make a final judgment. But I've been impressed. It was just one game last week. And let's face it, that offense had a lot of help. The defense gave them field position. The punting kind of bailed them out a little bit. Everything fell into place for that offense last week. The defense gave them 7. What happens if they don't have that 7? It's that's kind of where they are right now. They need a little help. So, but what's McCaffrey? I love him. Just the little things he's done on the field, warming up before the possession. I thought maybe he was hurt. No, he just wants to throw the ball. I mean, it looks just like kind of a gym rat gamer, and I think he'll find a way to get this done. It may not always be pretty, but let's watch him grow into this. And I think we'll be. I think Husker fans will be happy with this. I think he'll be. Is he Mariota? I don't know who he is.
I don't think he is.
He's McCaffrey, and he's a football player, and that's what they wanted. They want a team full of those kind of guys. So, but right now he's going to have help.
So here's how I'll answer the question, Evan. I think I'm not going to give up at all on Martinez.
Sure.
McCaffrey. I think what I would say is that with Martinez, they have to figure out, and maybe the kid too, they got to figure out what it is he was doing as a freshman, whether it was that it just looks different now. Because the athletic profile that he put out there as a true freshman, as a passer, not as a run. I mean, he was a great runner then too, but he's been a pretty good runner all 3 years. He's maybe gotten a little stronger and a little heavier as a runner, but he's been a pretty good runner. But as a passer, he could sling it 60 yards. And he was running around and getting in adventures and changing arm angles and throwing it to guys. And he was doing that all that season. Where'd that go? And that's a big piece. And does he need to have better players around him? I was a little worried going into the Ohio State game when I see them put a bunch of walk-ons out there and go, well, what are you trying to do for your quarterback here? What message are you sending when you're sending guys out there who are not going to stretch the field? They're basically going to run 9-yard, curls. And that looked okay for one game, but then Northwestern kind of took some of that away. And naturally, he's trying to make a play. And so there's some things there that I think they've got to go back and figure out. With McCaffrey, it's going to come down to, can he can do everything. He's smart. He can run. He's tough. Can he throw? Can he, when he's having to throw 25 times a game, can he throw the routes that you got to throw when they take away the things that they take away option 1, and that includes red zone stuff. It's a little whatever that, Frost is like, well, we got down to the red zone. We didn't want to throw an interception. Man, it's sooner or later you got to figure out how to do that. And this is, okay, you wanted to get a win in, but now you got to figure it out. But I think Logan Smothers is a little bit different player. But they also have to keep recruiting, and they have to keep their eyes and their options wide open. At some point you really have to nail that position. It may be McCaffrey. He's going to get 5 games here, 4 or 5 games, maybe 6. That's a pretty big sample size. And if he nails that, if he aces that part of the exam, then they'll roll with him going forward. But it is going to be an exam. Like, it's going to be tough because teams are going to take away the fun deep pass. They're going to take that away. They're going to play press coverage, and they're going to make the guy throw into some tight windows.
Well, that's an interesting idea, Sam. And assuming McCaffrey goes forward and improves as we all think he will, but what if the light bulb comes back on from Martinez? I feel like the light bulb's out right now. I feel like whether it's mechanics, he's not doing something, or it's in his head, but something's not right. Something's gone. And that he had when he came out of the box against Colorado, my goodness. And the Minnesota game that year, other games as well, Iowa game 2 years ago. But there's certainly. I mean, he's surrounded by a coaching think tank right now. You've got all these experts and quarterbacks.
Yes.
If that's what they are they experts? But maybe there's too much analysis going on. And just maybe he just needs to go out and play and forget about it all. But I'm just saying.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I don't know enough about.
Comes back on and he becomes great again.
Yeah, I don't know enough about training, and we don't talk to the strength coaches there on the record. I don't know enough about training to know exactly what's happened there. I've talked actually to a few people who certainly have ideas about that, but there's something. It may be that he's still just banged up, but there's the kineticism or whatever you call it. I don't know. The kinetic energy is not the same as it was when he was a freshman, and McCaffrey has it, right? Like he has that. Like you can see it in the way he plays, and I think you have to roll with that because I think that's infectious among his teammates. And Martinez is kind of a lower key guy, but athletically. Yeah. He is an incredible athlete when he's on, and I just don't feel like we saw that this year. I think we saw a guy that was kind of.
I think there's a hesitation in how he's playing, and what is that? Is it mechanical or is it in the head? And I'm not saying if that would go away and he would come back to what he was doing, then wouldn't that be something? But
it's possible.
Lovie Smith is going to challenge Luke tomorrow. He's going to throw some stuff he hasn't seen on film probably. They're going to hit the heck out of him probably. So it'll be a good test.
It will. They've got some good players at Illinois. Go ahead, Evan.
I was just going to say, I agree. Like this feels like it needs to be kind of a get-right game for the offense a little bit because, Illinois' defense has not handled Scott Frost's offense well the last 2 years. They've moved it up and down, particularly in the running game. That's been, Nebraska's run it up and down the field on them. And so I think this is, in a lot of ways, this is a really interesting game. I mean, one, it's a game you need to win if you're going to start ascending to be kind of a West contender. But yeah, I mean, I think if this season has become about development and about what does Nebraska have on offense, and you look at the schedule, the defenses they played, the defenses that are still to come, you could probably throw Minnesota in there too, but these are the kind of defenses that you need to be putting points up against. And if you're not, I think you have to start asking different questions than if you're not scoring on Northwestern or if you're not scoring on Ohio State. If Illinois is limiting you and you're shooting yourself in the foot and struggling to move things, it feels different, right? Like it feels like there's maybe something else going on besides just, oh, well, that was a pretty good defense we just played.
I think they're going to play okay on offense tomorrow. I really do. I think they'll have some success. After that, I think it's going to get tough. I think the sledding is after tomorrow is going to get. Iowa's good. Purdue's got a good red zone defense, and they have a good scheme. Bob Diaco is a smart man and who will be very motivated to play Nebraska. I know that. And then Minnesota is getting better. Now they're screwing up a lot, but by the end of the season, I think they'll be a little bit more tighter, whatever you want to call it. So, it should be an interesting game tomorrow. I like Nebraska to win. I'll say that. I like them to win the game. But, all right, let's talk hoops real quick. The schedule.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why is the Big Ten allowing non-conference games? And I have no problem with that. I don't want them to change their mind. I don't want them to – I don't want to plant a bad seed in their head. But what the heck? Why are they – and we've already heard they may not do it in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
it's all about money. I mean, but this is not a really good time to be playing basketball. DePaul just shut it down for 3 games. You probably see more of that. But why? Why are they playing non-conference games?
I think probably because at the time that they were setting it all up, non-conference games seemed a lot more feasible, and they also seemed like something we could do before the COVID spike came. That's one. 2 is because the NCAA tournament. I think the NCAA tournament is a factor. Other leagues were going to do it. We already knew that, and they didn't want to forfeit that. And I think because the ACC, the Big Ten ACC thing was already out there, were they going to shut that down and say, no, we're not going to play these games. We're just going to play in-house while North Carolina's out there playing Gonzaga or whatever. I think that's one of the reasons. And 3 is the Big Ten, deep in its bones, is a basketball league.
Yes, that's it. And that's the deal. And that's apologies to Ohio State football, who didn't get to have a season or non-conference schedule. But they care. They have basketball impacts more Big Ten schools. And you've got Commissioner Izzo. I say that affectionately. I wish he was the commissioner. These basketball is Illinois. It's Indiana. It's everything. It's Matt Painter. It's all those things. You've got Iowa top 5. It's Final Four team.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, the
Big Ten's been probably since 1987.
It's the best.
1989.
It's the best conference. Apologies to my Creighton friends, but Big Ten's the best one. It's the big dog in hoops, and so they're going to have a season, and they're going to play non-conference games. And if you didn't get to play Chattanooga, Tennessee. Well, too bad. We're going to play. We're going to play the McNeese State basketball. So, and here we go. So again, I'm not complaining. I'm just asking for the entire class to answer, and they will, of course. But it's hoops. Let's bring it. We'll see how many games we get. The golden door, golden window, whatever it is. Is it going to happen? Well, South Dakota's slowly falling apart before our eyes, and so I hope it happens next week. But God, it just feels like, okay, we're going to play a couple games, and then we're going to stop, and then we're going to play a couple more games, 2 weeks, and then we're going to stop again. And we've already got Creighton out of the mix. Okay, well, they play Nebraska December 11th. Well, we assume they'll be back by then, but I don't know what kind of protocols. Have you heard, Sam? If you're out, are you done for 14 days?
It's 21. I mean, they're the same return to play. They use now. They can revisit that, and I think they will.
But I'm just saying, it's
they better.
Basketball, 2 or 3 guys is half your rotation.
It is.
It's not like football, so it's going to be wild, and that's why I say push the Final Four back to April or May. Who cares? What else we got to do? I mean, we'll have college baseball. Well, maybe we'll have the World Series in July, August. What do I care? Let's just play. Let's delay things and try to get things done. And, it's 2 months here. My daughter just got home last night from Missouri, and she's going to go back, we think, in late January. So that's basically 2 months with nobody on campus. Maybe we can play sports on campus right now because nobody's there. So
yeah, I think that's the advantage. The advantage. That's the thing, is that there won't be anybody on campus, so it should be a hell of a safe time.
But I tell you what, Fred Hoiberg's a hell of a salesman because he's pumped up. He feels good about this team. He's not afraid to tell you. He's not going to hold his cards and say, well, I don't know what I got. We'll just have to see. We got to have a bunch of breaks and luck and all this stuff. Yeah, he's ready to go. And I love it. I can't wait to see him. It won't be perfect, but, maybe they got some guys who can make some shots, and that which is, Scott Frost is about scoring touchdowns. Fred Hoiberg's about scoring baskets.
They're very similar in their vision for their respective sports.
They have playmakers, and he thinks he's got some. So why can't we? Maybe next Wednesday we'll roll him out.
Hoiberg's different in that he's systematically and almost like he's religiously gonna do what he's gonna do. And I think Scott's got a little bit of a sentimental heart at times, and maybe played a few guys along the way. And Hoiberg they cleared the whole roster, like almost all of it, and they started again. And this roster's better, and he's just religious about it. And I'm impressed by that sort of adherence.
That's a commitment to what you're doing all the time. And he doesn't fear failure. He got fired by the Bulls. His legend said at Iowa State, this is gravy, and he gets to do it in Nebraska where it's very close to him. He's up there setting the example. Okay, guys, we're going to play the way I'm coaching. We're not going to stop. And, not to go back to football, but I thought that was interesting last week where Scott took the foot off the pedal a little bit and admitted doing so in the name of trying to win the game.
I know.
But still,
it didn't work.
This is a coach maybe feels a little pressure to win right now. And
what do you?
Certainly you're right. If, as Dirk said, it wrote as well, if they lose that game, the stakes are on the table. And so I think that was an interesting move by him last week to kind of admit, okay, I really care about this.
See, here's the thing with Scott is that's true. He took his foot off the gas, and then when McCaffrey threw the pick, they were trying to hit a big one. What they were trying to do on that play is go like 30, 40 yards with a wheel to Austin Allen, and it was set up real nice.
Yeah.
The pass rush got to McCaffrey, and he got hit. But I was like, that play would have been good when you're up 27-6.
Yeah.
Go and finish it. Put this team in the earth, and
that's trust.
They can't come back from 35-6. Nobody's coming back from that.
Well, Sam, we've talked about this before, but I still think one of the things that UCF had with Frost that maybe hasn't necessarily translated to Nebraska is that weightiness to win football games, right? Like if that same situation had played out in Orlando 4 years ago, do you think he lets up in the second half in the name of killing clock? I don't think there's any chance. I think he does what he does, and they win the thing. And so
they had Mackenzie Milton, and I think that's different.
But I also think his attachment to Nebraska and his understanding, his deep understanding of what it means to the fan base to win games affects some of that. And whereas Hoiberg, he can come in, like you said, and do what he does, and he's going to do it. And if they lose a few games along the way, hey, it's going to get right because that's just how it is.
He's going to change the roster.
Yeah.
They lost games last year. They played good for a half and maybe even a half and a quarter. But they'd always have a 10-minute stretch where Kevin Cross would take 9 threes and miss them all. And, Cam Mack would have 4 turnovers. And so, you could see the vision, but then it would fall apart because players wouldn't do what they were supposed to. And so he just switched out the whole team. And so now he's got guys in there that I think he likes more and are better. Teddy Allen is a good player. He is. Right. But Trey McGowan's is a whole different quality of guard compared to Gervais Green or Deshaun Burke. This is a 2-year starter in the ACC who plays defense and is physical and big. He's not 6 foot. He's 6'4". His brother's 6'6". When he comes, and these are men. Teddy Allen's a man. He's a huge physical player. Shamil Stevenson, who's coming off a sit-out year, is a huge physical player. He's 6'6", 245. Will probably remind some people who watch Creighton of a Damian Jefferson. He's like that. Delano Banton, he's 6'9" and he's 205, but he's a point guard. And you don't see a lot of those players around, and he's going to change the way that they play offense because he can throw it over people. Whereas their point guard last year, and Cam Mack is a gifted player, don't get me wrong. He's 6'2", 6'3". It's just a different team. And he's pretty religious. I'm gonna do what I need to do and get the players I need to create the system.
But yes, speaking to Evan's point, it's an apples and oranges deal in a way. Totally different setups. Scott Frost has got the weight of the state on his shoulders, and
absolutely
he understands that it's overanalyzed. Every move is overanalyzed and overwrought, and it's just the end of the world. And it's everything. So I think he's discovered he can't be the UCF guy, where a few people showed up for the games and they're the underdog school, and it's all fun and lively. But Nebraska, everything is so weighted, and it's like, oh my God, if they lose this game, it's crazy. Hoiberg's like, people are like, okay, he changed his roster over, he got rid of everybody. Nebraska fans are like, yeah, cool, you're brilliant. It's a genius move.
Yeah.
We don't know what it means because it's basketball, but it's brilliant because you're Hoiberg and you know what you did at Iowa State.
Yeah.
And it's totally different because there's no expectation in basketball. And if he wins a tournament game, he gets a statue.
Right.
If Frost wins a bowl game, he gets well, why didn't you win it big enough? Or why didn't
Right.
We heard Osborne for years had to go through all that. So totally different. But anyway, I didn't mean to bring football.
But if you know who they are.
Last week was a very interesting thing.
I think that fans will accept whatever, of course they want to win. Mm-hmm. But I think what excited fans about the flip to McCaffrey and playing all these young guys is, and I've heard from a number of fans this week that are like, we don't really care if they win or lose a bunch of games this year. It's about the future.
Yes.
And what frustrated people, especially with the first half of the Northwestern game, other than the last two drives where they started putting in the young guys, it's like, why are you playing guys that are not going to be long-term players at Nebraska? What are you doing? Just play the young guys, get them out there, let them all learn at the same time. We'll take the lumps. Don't stick a fifth-year senior back on the offensive line. Let Ethan Piper go. I think fans are on board with that. I think they were kind of waiting. And Evan and I used to have this argument all the time last year. I'm like, why don't you just play the young guys? Just play them now.
All pass right now.
I think they probably wish they had, because they went 5-7 last year, and it was kind of a lost season anyway. But
is he worried about them? Is he worried about the players? If they start losing, he won't be able to get them back. Yeah. I can't answer that. But in terms of the fans, you're right. It's a bit of a hall pass season, which I said could happen. But next year, we all know that'll go away, and that's why this year is so important.
Yep.
Anyway,
Ken Pom has predicted that Nebraska will finish 7-18 in basketball.
Okay.
And
Ken Pom was God. We all know that. So what the hell?
It's a reflection of how good the league is. So in taking this beat job over from Chris, who took it over from Lee, both of whom were unbelievably good at their jobs. Mm-hmm. I know that I can't, do all the things that they were doing, but I've tried to look back statistically and historically at the league and kind of get a sense of it. And again, do I think Nebraska is going to be better? I do. I think it has to be viewed through the contextual lens of this might be as good as the Big Ten's been in 30 years. You got to go back to 88-89 when Michigan won the national championship.
Yes. They were very great.
Illinois was in the Final Four.
Yes.
And Indiana actually was the regular season champion. And Iowa was really good. Mm-hmm. And Ohio State was playing a young Jim Jackson. They didn't get really good until the following couple of years. But it wasn't – you got to go back a long, long way, either then or the Fab Four time when Bob Knight made his final four against – God, I don't even remember. Whoever was on the team, Calbert Chaney and all those guys. It's been a long time since the Big Ten's been this good. Iowa's really good. Illinois was my preseason pick. They have 2 of the 5 or 6 best players in the league. Michigan State will be Michigan State. Wisconsin, I can't believe that they won as many games as they did last year, but they found a way to do it. And I think, you know what? It may not come to fruition this year, but Juwan Howard just recruited another Fab 5 to Michigan for next year, and they're going to be really good as long as he is there. Now, he may not be there long. He may go to the NBA pretty soon, but they have talent. And the one thing that I've always noticed when Nebraska plays Michigan, FYI, that's the team that Nebraska struggles to beat the most in Big Ten play. Michigan, not anyone else, Michigan, is the talent differential between the 2 teams. And Michigan has talent. And I think they would have been a tough out in the NCAA tournament. They would have made it as like an 11 seed, and they would have been the 11 seed nobody wanted to play. And I think they're probably a 7 or an 8 seed this year, but they're going to be tough to beat. And Rutgers is tough. And Indiana and Purdue aren't even in the top 25. That's how good the Big Ten is. And Indiana and Purdue are going to be pretty good. So Nebraska fans have to temper any expectations about record by understanding that this is the hardest schedule that Nebraska basketball has played in a long, long time.
I don't think there is an expectation because they don't even know who the players are. I had never seen them play.
Well, I'm just saying they could win 10 games this year.
Right.
Like, oh, my God, they won 10. And I'm like, listen, guys, this league is unbelievably good.
Right.
And on top of that, their non-conference schedule includes games against San Francisco and St. Louis, both of whom are good teams from last year. St. Louis probably would have made the NCAA tournament. Georgia Tech, they're going to have some talent. And Creighton.
Yeah.
Creighton's good. Creighton's really good. So that's 24 of their 27 games right there.
But if I could throw in a counterpoint to all this too, it's not like this is just a one-off this season. The Big Ten, like that, this is the reality for Nebraska across most major athletics. Like,
it is.
How much have we talked about how different football was 10 years ago than what it is now? And a lot of that is because of the Big Ten network and because of the money that all of these programs have had that comes through football, that then you can pour, that overflows into basketball. You can pay your head coaches like all these teams are doing. You build the facilities. The same thing's true for baseball. The same thing's true for volleyball. A lot of these schools that are historically not as good, or maybe they haven't been as good recently, they're getting resources pumped in. Mm-hmm. And so I think, while yes, it's important to have that context for this season, I think that's just kind of the new reality moving forward too, this is one of the most well-funded leagues out there. Mm-hmm. It's not going to get any easier. And I think the answer, if you're a Nebraska fan, isn't waiting for some of this, these other schools at their high watermarks to fall. I think it's, you got to find a way to rise up, because this is how it's going to be.
I think when it relates to Nebraska basketball is they're going to have to pick their spots. So over the course of a 10-year whatever, I think it would be unreasonable to expect 10 NCAA tournament berths. I think it'd be unreasonable to expect 8. I think what's more reasonable is, out of 10 years, you get 4 or 5 years where your team's really good and the Big Ten isn't quite as good, and you get a run and you get a Sweet 16, and there you go. And this is just one of those years where I think Nebraska's roster, if it's as good as they think it is pretty good. But compared to the rest of the league, it's going to be hard. If you took this roster and put it in the year when they won 22 games, I would like Nebraska to win 20 to 22 games. I think in this particular year, it's going to be tough. It's just, if they get to 500 by the end of the year and they're 13 and 14, that is one hell of a 13 and 14 team. That's awesome.
Just think how much fun Nebraska fans are going to have. Of course, they won't be at the game, but think how much fun they're going to have watching this team if they can make baskets, if they can shoot the ball. Then it changes the whole thing. Then you have a chance to win some games. You're in almost all the games, and whether you win them or not, you're enjoying the sport to a degree you've never enjoyed it in a long time, maybe ever, because this is a fun style.
Yes,
the guys who play the style and play it well, it's a fun ride. So they'll enjoy the ride. They'll want to win later, but there's no expectation about it. There really is not that much of an expectation. It's a bunch of us are still old Big 8, Big 12 basketball fans, do we really appreciate the Big Ten for what it is? Maybe not. Maybe. But I've always said Ted will take Nebraska to get in football and basketball, get in deep, go compete, go play for championships and win some. But I think before we really give the Big Ten its due. So until then, I think we're the expectation and the buy-in. Excuse me, is quite there yet. But again, I think this will be a fun year if these guys can if they can score and make free throws. Good God, I had that Northwestern game set that aged me 20 years. I feel like I'm 85. I mean, that was awful. But anyway,
this is a different team, and I think they're mentally tougher. They've got some guys on this team this year.
Yeah,
Trey McGowan's is tough. Kobe Webster is tough.
well,
Teddy Allen is as tough as they come. Now, Teddy's volatile and he can go either way, but Teddy Allen will make free throws and he's tough. This is a tough team. This is a much mentally tougher team, I think.
This is the coaches' league, and Nebraska has a coach, so you should feel good about that, Nebraska fans. So, all those guys need players, but. Again, I think it'll be fun, and I hate to leave you, but I need to go. And it's been fun, guys. And do your picks and wrap it up. And I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be the guy wearing the mask, and I'll be looking forward to that box lunch and the Zoom call. So. But will Scott Frost wear a mask? Does he not wear a mask? I don't even notice it half the time.
He wears a mask.
He doesn't wear a mask.
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay, because people have asked me, why didn't he wear a mask? Well, I thought he did, but maybe he takes
the mask compliance has improved across the board among many players and many coaches in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Anyway.
It was a little iffy in the week one, but it's gotten better.
Okay. All right, guys. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good time.
Thanks to Tom. Evan, we are even, as we didn't do our games last week, but we will this week. I have to cross a couple off because they have since been canceled. Yeah. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So we're even. We got one tonight. Purdue, Minnesota.
Give me Purdue.
You're going to take Purdue? You know what? I'm going to take Minnesota. UCLA, Oregon. Is that game still on? I think it is.
I'm
pretty sure that game's still being played.
I think so. Yeah, they were going to have tests today to find out.
Yeah.
As of now,
we're going to have it on the list anyway.
Give me Oregon.
Me too. All right, this one's easy. Indiana at Ohio State. Take Ohio State.
I'd love it if Indiana could be competitive, but yeah, Ohio State.
Yeah. Cincinnati at UCF.
Give me Cincinnati.
Me too.
Should be another fun one.
Oh, yeah. Iowa at Penn State. I'm going to take Penn State.
Ooh. I'll take Iowa.
I like what I saw from that quarterback.
That's
Liberty at North Carolina State.
Liberty, huh? We're picking Liberty games.
They're ranked.
I know. I'll take NC State.
Me too. Michigan at Rutgers.
Seems like it's going to be closer than maybe we ever would have thought, but I'll still go Michigan.
Yeah. USC, Utah. Utah has not yet played this season. USC has played twice and they haven't looked great, but
that's insane. I'll take Utah.
Utah. I'll take Utah as well.
Yeah, well,
Armageddon. Kansas State at Iowa State. I'll take Iowa State.
these teams have always thrown me off this year. I'll go Iowa State too.
Louisiana State University, LSU, at Arkansas.
LSU.
Are you? I'm going to take Arkansas. I have no idea what LSU is going to do. It may get ugly. Wisconsin Northwestern, I'll take Wisconsin.
Yeah, same here.
Nebraska Illinois.
I think Nebraska gets it done. I said in the 2-minute drill, 34-24 Huskers. So
I think I went in my picks 35-21, so we're basically the same. I took the Huskers. And the last one, Bedlam, Oklahoma State at Oklahoma.
Yeah. Which Oklahoma team are we going to see? I mean, both of them, obviously. But
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I can't pick against the Sooners.
Neither can I. I think, again, the playoff committee is going to meet here soon, and I'm just telling you, OU's not out of it. If they win big this week, do not tell me that – I think Cincinnati is good for that 4th spot. I do not think BYU is going to be there. I think they will put Oklahoma over them in a heartbeat. So, how many games do we differ on? 1. Did you pick Northwestern or Wisconsin?
No, I went Wisconsin.
That's what I thought. So we differed on, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Just 3 games. Purdue, Minnesota, Iowa, Penn State.
LSU, Arkansas.
LSU, Arkansas.
Eh.
I don't know. The Minnesota is a true gut feel tonight. They have really sucked in some of their games, but
terrible.
I don't know. I just don't know. Purdue seems like they're kind of in flux on offense. They've had a messy year, so their defense is playing pretty well. All right, everybody. Well, we'll be back, when we're back next week. I go off to the Hoops podcast now. For Evan, I'm Sam. Please stay safe. We may have a podcast before Thanksgiving. We may not. If we don't, have a great Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye.